last year, the average effectiveness rate of a cold call was 1.26%, which means that they're wasting 98.5% of their time, effort, and money, right? And so, we're helping them be more effective, frankly, than the way they sell, with phone calls.
One of the great promises of the internet was the ability for companies to quickly and easily engage with an enormous range of potential customers. And yet, while the population has fully embraced the swiftness and efficiency of SMS, sales teams are too often still tied to the antiquity of email and phones to close the deal. On this episode of UpTech Report, I talk with Brandon O'Halloran of ReplyBuy about his effort to offer a text messaging solution for sales teams at scale. Brian believes that text messaging will be a major mode of business communication in the near future, and he offers some intriguing numbers to back up that claim. Brandon, thanks so much for joining us. Let's dig into learning more about ReplyBuy and the problem that you guys are solving. To start us off, describe your company in 5 seconds.
We are the easiest way for a business to start a conversation and close a sale.
I love it. Easiest way to start a conversation and close a sale, which is kind of important, closing the sale. Now, how long has the business been in existence?
Yeah, so the company was actually founded in 2010. We originally got it to market in 2014. Was when we, a lot of years spent developing the product, kind of figuring out product market fit, and broke into the sports and entertainment industry as our first market in 2014.
Gotcha. And then you joined on pretty early on, about 2014, right at the beginning?
2014, yeah. So at that point, there was just 3 of us, basically taking the idea to market, right? So conceptually speaking, we had the product. It was unlock a transaction and a simple response to a text, and my role was drive revenue and partnerships, and so. There was 3 of us in a small office and no customers. So,
where all good startup stories begin, and now you're here today as CEO, being able to lead this going forward. Tell me, how has the problem that you're solving evolved over time, and where is it today?
Yeah, really good question. So, ultimately, the problem initially was removing friction in the buying experience for a consumer, right? So we looked for an industry that just had a lot of friction, right? Where, you think about buying a ticket, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, right? You got to click a link, download an app, prove you're not a robot, zoom in on seat maps. There's just all these different steps you have to take. And so we just streamlined that process and really proved out the technology. And what we found was it's an amazing conversion platform, right? Compared to other traditional channels like email, app push notifications, phone calls, that type of thing. And so, we proved that out, really broke into the industry. As we started to do that, we're super fortunate to have a lot of customers, across pro sports, entertainment, higher education, who, we kind of had a nice glimpse into their world, right? And understanding kind of the challenges that they're facing. And so it became really clear to us in terms of like how it's evolved over the years, that the concept of one-to-one messaging from somebody's landline and then tracking that in CRM was going to be something that everyone was doing, right? As the whole world moves towards using text messaging for sales, marketing, and support. And so, we looked around the landscape and, people look at messaging and think, hey, this is a crowded industry. There's a lot out there. And, there is to an extent, but it's like, the same way everybody uses email today, right? Every business has an email. We believe that's going to be the same with text messaging. And so, we saw an opportunity to introduce a new fully SaaS-based platform for one-to-one personalized conversations at scale. And that's really taken off over the last, 15, 16 months. We've been able to add about 95 new organizations who are using that platform now. We started sports entertainment. So on that side, right, every single sales and service rep at the New York Yankees, for example, uses our platform to text enable their landlines and communicate with fans in a one-to-one fashion. And all the while, it's all, tracked back into CRMs like Microsoft Dynamics and Salesforce and HubSpot. And so, they're using it for all the same reasons they're using phone calls and emails, right? It's just as a more efficient, effective way to set meetings, to do renewals, to allow people to text you as an inbound form of reaching out, right? Because a lot of people these days, right, these organizations are built with these large inside sales organizations that, frankly, sell in a little bit of an old school fashion, right? Like, if you walked in, you might think of it as like it's like, hey, here's 60 people on an open floor. Here's your script. Here's your people to call. And, it's a lot of, picking up the phone and smiling and dialing. And more that's becoming, just an ineffective way. I mean, last year, the average effectiveness rate of a cold call was 1.26%, which means that they're wasting 98.5% of their time, effort, and money, right? And so, we're helping them be more effective, frankly, than the way they sell, with phone calls today. And so that was really the starting point. We expanded it into higher education and a number of the different departments there. So it started with ticket sales, expanded into fundraising and development offices, alumni associations, university advancement, ultimately different purposes, right, for what they're trying to communicate, but they're trying to do the same thing. They're trying to engage a consumer on the other end and get them to attend an event, to donate, to, engage and give them feedback, just customer service, checking in, building relationships, right? Like, so, really we want it to fall in with the organization's strategy, right? So we're not pushing anything and saying, hey, you got to use it this way. We do believe that if you make it personalized and authentic, your response and engagement is going to be a lot better. But we really want it to fall in with whatever your strategy is for the organization. Same way you're going to have a pillar for email, social media, et cetera. We believe we can be that solution to fit in from a text perspective.
What is your closest competitor and how are you different from them?
Yeah, good question. So there's definitely a handful out there on the sports entertainment side. A company called ZipWhip is who we run into the most on that side. So they do text-enabled landlines. If you've ever gotten a text from like your dentist office, reminding you about an appointment or something from their landline, that very well may have been them. So they're a big company. They're a big company. They have probably 10, 20,000, customers. So they've been around since about 2007. So they do a great job. What we found out though, and where we feel like we're serving a great niche is, and where people frankly are going to win is it's more pull off the shelf, more generic, right? Because you're trying to serve a lot of different styles of customers. So we saw an opportunity to introduce a platform that's really built more specific to the type of workflows, right, that sports, entertainment, higher ed are operating in terms of being a little bit more campaign driven, more revenue focused in mindset, deeper integrations, right, with the right partners, and then structuring the right partnerships as well, just in the space. So it really comes down to our focus, right, which layers into the product and integrations that we have, which has allowed us to stand out.
Digging into then even more, you say like your connections and APIs, the fact that you already hook into a bunch of other CRMs. Share more about how that technology works, both of the connections there and the underlying difference of your technology itself.
For sure. Yeah. So, ultimately in terms of the integration, I mean, we basically understand like, again, their workflow, right? So, the two areas, I mean, we try and keep it fairly simple to the end user. So for the team, right, or the organization that we work with, literally it's just, what's your username, password, activate the integration, APIs talk to each other. So super simple, right, on their end is the idea. And then what we basically allow them to do is think of it like text-based CRM. We're hooking in with somebody like Salesforce where they can import all of their data the same way you would do with an email marketing platform. You'd import your data so that way you can segment and target your audience. You can build profiles for individuals, create these custom scripts that are super personalized to the end user. So we're getting all of their data in there. We have a two-way auto sync, essentially updating that information on the fly. So as stuff updates in CRM, It's also updating on our side. So they're working off live information. And then one of the biggest pieces, and people see this all the time, is like right now, what a typical sales rep, right? If you're sending a text message, right, from your cell phone, you actually have to go back in to Salesforce, write a note. Hey, I called Alex today, left him a voicemail, and then set a follow-up and all this stuff, right? We basically automate all of that. So the rep doesn't have to do kind of wasted busy work. So if I send a text to Alex, it knows that Brandon sent this text to Alex at this time, this date, here was the message. It all goes back in there without the rep having to do anything. So super simple on their end, right? Making their lives easier, saving them time. So efficiency and effectiveness is really what we're focused on.
How many, speaking some numbers then in the customers that you're working with, how many customers are you seeing and working with and able to use your platform? Just some metrics, even like how many text messages are being sent on your platform these days?
Yeah, for sure. So we do a little over 1 million messages a month. We've got about 150 or so organizations. Mostly, I would say, 80, 90% is pro sports, entertainment, and then higher education, kind of split in between that for the most part. And so, I think the biggest piece that we see is response rate, right? Like everybody knows, the typical, if you're judging email campaigns, right? You're like, hey, what was the open rates? And hey, I got 30% open. Awesome, right? And then, okay, our response rate was 2% or something. With text, it's pretty much a given. It's like 97% of texts are open and read. So, everyone can just think about themselves, right? Do you not read your text messages, right? When somebody messages you, everybody reads their text message. For us, it's really about response and engagement. We're seeing on average about 30%, which has been just eye-opening compared to what people see through other channels, right?
What's the future that you see, both near term and long term? So the next year or so, where you see the business is going, and then in the long term, 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, so, for the next year or so, we're laser focused on, really dominating the industry that we're in and continuing to gain market share. So, we've been growing, about 13% month over month, over the last handful of months. And so, we have a good business. To actually become even more important during all this COVID-19 craziness right now, and people staying at home, not quite to the level of Slack and Zoom, and you're seeing those stock prices go to the moon, but people have to have a way to communicate, right? And we have a web application that allows them to do that on their mobile phone, on their laptop, and engage people where they are, right? Meeting them where they are. So we're laser focused on continuing to lean in, more partnerships and integrations that make the product more valuable in our space, and continuing to gain market share. What we're building towards and what we're huge believers in is really the time being right for conversational commerce. And so the idea of marrying commerce with just conversational communication, right? Which, obviously we're big believers in messaging. And so I mentioned at the beginning, firm believers that businesses are going to see the light, right? They're going to want to take advantage of the easiest way to be able to start a conversation and close a sale. And so you just look at it in terms of, usage, right? From the consumer standpoint, people are using text messaging, right? It's like 78% of consumers prefer text messaging as their primary form of communication. And so we feel like we're at a great intersection.
This has been fascinating to hear kind of the evolution and the focus that you guys have. Where can people go to learn more, and what's a good first step for them to take?
Yeah, for sure. So they can either go to replybuy.com, obviously, which we have plenty of information there for people to check out. I always offer it up. People can text me directly if they want as well at 402-659-8921. So we're believers in conversations, and so you can shoot me a text direct, or you can go to our website and check out the information. There'll be some flows to get set up with somebody on our team too.
Be sure to check out part 2 of my conversation with Brandon, in which he explains why it's so important to let go of your ideas and how he's able to accomplish so much with such a small team.